Today we're going to be talking about the addition and subtraction of algebraic fractions. But before we talk about algebraic fractions, let's talk about adding and subtracting fractions in general. So I'm going to go ahead and start out with something like 2/3 plus 1/4. Now remember, in order to add and subtract fractions, you have to have a common denominator. Has to happen. You cannot do it without it. Let's take a look at 2/3 and 1/4. I'm going to focus on the denominator, 4 and 3, here we go. So I know that my lowest common denominator between the two is 12. So let's go ahead and go over here now. Now I'm going to be comparing twelfths. I'm able to compare because I have similar size. So in order to get from 3 to 12, I multiply by 4, so I'm taking 2 times 4. 8/12, and then 4 times 3, 1 times 3. So now I can go ahead and combine my fractions because I have a common denominator. 8/12 plus 3/12 gets me 11/12. So you see my denominators stay the same. And if we were to pick a different sort of problem, let's make this a subtraction problem. So we'll go with 2/3 minus 1/4. And same thing, I need a common denominator, which we already established was 12. Oops, we are subtracting, not adding. Then I end up with 8/12 minus 3/12. And I know if I remove 3 of the 12ths from the 8 that I have, I'm left with 5/12. Algebraic fractions operate in the same way. You're always looking for a common denominator. Always, always, always. So something that you may have done before is worked with simple algebraic fractions like x minus 3 over 4 and x plus 1 over 5. Let's just take a look at this example. In this case, we have 4 and 5. Our common denominator is going to be 20. Now, in order to get from 4 to 20, I had to multiply by 5, which means I'm going to have to take my numerator and multiply that by 5. Multiply everything, so I'm going to get 5x minus 15. And then for this denominator, in order to get from 5 to 20, I have to multiply it by 4. So I'm multiplying 4x, 4, 1, so that I get 4x plus 4. Now what I'm going to do is go ahead and combine everything over 20ths, and I have 5x plus 4x, which is 9x, and negative 15 plus 4, which is negative 11. So my answer is 9x minus 11 over 20. But what we are doing now is taking it a step further. We are now dealing with algebraic fractions where we have variables in the denominator as well, but the rules are still the same. My common denominator between 9p squared and p to the third is 9p to the third. So I can see that 9p squared goes into 9p to the third if I multiply it by p. So I'm going to multiply this numerator by p so that I get 5p over 9p to the third. And then I'm looking at my second fraction, 1 over p to the third. Well, p to the third, if I take p to the third and multiply it by 9, I get 9p to the third. So I'm going to take my numerator and multiply it by 9. Now I can go ahead and add those values together so that I have, since I have a common denominator, I can go ahead and just add my numerators together to get 5p plus 9 over 9p to the third. Now as I'm looking at my answer, I'm super tempted to cancel out this 9 from that 9, but I cannot. This 5p plus 9 is a combined term. There's nothing I can do with it because there's nothing that goes into both 5p and 9 that will also go into 9p to the third. There isn't anything. So I'm just going to leave that as my answer. And if you want to try the next one on your own, you can go ahead. But if not, you can just watch along and see how I do it. So I'm looking at my common denominator, and I see that it's going to be n times t. Because here in my first fraction I have m times n, In my second fraction, I have n times t, so m times n times t would take care of my fraction. So let's go ahead and change them to mnt's. Now I'm going to go ahead and multiply. In this case, I had to multiply mn times t in order to get m and t. So whatever you do to the numerator, or to the denominator, you have to do to the numerator. So I have 6t, and then I had to multiply my second fraction by m, so that I have 7m. So then my answer, my simplified fraction here is going to be 6t minus 7m over mnt. So that's all we have for now. What we're going to do now is take a look at some of these problems, and then next time we're going to talk about adding and subtracting fractions that are a little more complicated.